Hey there, Mama Work It Tribe. I'm Marisa Lonic, working mom of 4, lover of all things flow, family, and fulfillment. You're tuning in to the Mama Work It podcast, where we take aim at overwhelm, mom guilt, and exhaustion and swap them out for big dreams, belly laughs, and productivity that actually fits into your life. Every week, we dive into tips, motivation, and a healthy dose of fun so you can slay your day even when you're busy AF. Ready to feel seen, energized, and totally unstoppable? Let's get to work, mama. Hey, mamas. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Mama Work It podcast. So glad you're here. If you are new to the show, my name is Marisa Lonic. I am your host, working mom of 4, and the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life. Super excited to introduce you today to our guest, Jen Morris. She is a community builder, speaker, mom of 2, and unapologetic champion for moms in business. She's the founder of Renegade Motherhood, a networking and coaching community that's redefining how trailblazing moms connect, collaborate, and grow. What began as a casual coffee meetup has grown into a multi-city and digital movement where moms in business show up to trade ideas, spark visibility, and raise both companies and families, fueling what Jen calls the economy of motherhood. With 20 years of experience on stage and in entrepreneurship, Jen blends strategy, storytelling in every room she steps into. Whether she's curating live events, leading workshops, or helping moms amplify their influence, her mission is clear. No mom should have to build her business or her confidence alone. I love this so much. I'm so excited that Jen is part of the hemisphere that I do business in. And I'm so excited that she's sharing some of her magic today on today's episode. So Jen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. And I love how we connected, because we connected through a mutual friend, Jen Toddling. Yeah. And I mean, that's really what it's all about. Just, making introductions and showing up and seeing what's possible. So I think that reflects, everything I stand for right there. Just how we ended up together in this moment.
Yeah. I love it. Yep. And I'm pretty sure Jen Toddling and I connected through another mom in business. So it's just amazing how these networks can grow and thrive and support each other in this way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Jen, let's get started by the question I ask all our guests. Just tell us a little bit more about your story, how it relates to Renegade Motherhood, working motherhood, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to make it the short version, but as you mentioned in the introduction, where I'm like, oh, damn, is that me? Is she talking about me? But I have a background in acting, and so I really think back. At the time, I didn't think about it this way, but I look back and I'm like, that was really my first business, because to be an actor, whether you're successful or not, you have to be putting yourself out there. It's all about visibility. And, but most acting schools, at least when I was studying, don't teach the business side of it. And so it's a lot of just kind of trying to figure it out, often the hard way. And so I learned a lot early on about visibility, about showing up, about, just doing it even when you don't want to, and rejection, a lot around rejection, because, 9 times out of 10, it's not a yes when you're auditioning as an actor. And then that led me to move to New York and started juggling a bunch of different part-time jobs, and very quickly realized I didn't want to do it the way a lot of people were doing it. I didn't want to work in an office all day and just use lunch breaks to run to auditions. And so I started my first business, just selling nutrition products. And that led me to really tap into an interest in nutrition that I didn't know I had. And so I went back to school, got a health coaching certification, started a health coaching practice in New York, and then really kind of learned through a woman I was doing a show with at the same time. She was like, you should come to this networking group that I'm in. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, oh, cool. Like, you know, she's like, yeah, we meet Wednesdays at 7. And I'm thinking like, oh, cool. Like 7 p.m., like a happy hour, you know, or a dinner or whatever. And she's like, oh no, 7 a.m. And I'm like, wait, what? Now as a mom now, I'm like 7 a.m. It's like the day has started. We've been up for, you know, but at the time as like a 20 something actor, I was like, oh my God. But I did it and started showing up to this professional networking group. It was mostly a bunch of men in suits, but really taught me, again, just another way of like just being good at being uncomfortable and you know, putting yourself out there and learning from other people who have been doing it longer. But then flash forward, we moved to Colorado, met my husband, got married, moved to Colorado, had my first daughter, and had joined another chapter of this networking group. We moved to Denver and I was in it for a year. And then after my daughter was born, I went back with her. And in 3 minutes, she was crying and screaming. And I was like, it's been real, guys, I'm out. Like this isn't going to work. And so, you know, networking and building a professional network was always just part of my like entrepreneurial DNA. It was just something that I feel fortunate was, you know, someone introduced this idea to me. You know, this kid really who did not know much about, you know, this quote unquote, like professional, like business world. But then I realized very quickly after having a child that most of them are not built with moms in mind. Mm-hmm. So then, you know, she got a little bit older. I had my second child during COVID. I am definitely an extrovert most of the time. And coming out of COVID, I was just craving, you know, community in real life, and posted in a local mom's Facebook group, like, hey, are there any other moms in business? Because I also was just, I didn't want to get together and just talk about my kids, frankly. I felt like I'd been doing that for the last, like, just try to survive, you know, during the pandemic and shutdowns and everything. And so I really wanted to get together with other moms who were doing other things too. And, you know, that Facebook post got like 2 likes and like 3 comments. It did not go viral. It was not this like overnight thing, but some people showed up and then some people showed up the next time. And for the first almost like 2 years was very casual. It was a very casual kind of coffee thing. And then through building that community, I had people who were in the community telling me like, Jen, like what you've built is really pretty cool. And like, you could do a lot more with this. And then that was the kind of almost like permission sometimes we don't realize we need. And validation of like, hey, what you're doing is cool and valuable, because we often don't value what other people are finding valuable, which is a whole other conversation. And so that ended up turning into Renegade Motherhood. That's been about 18 months. And we are really here to like give moms opportunities to be visible, because networking, when you really boil it down, it's a visibility tool. It's a visibility strategy. And there's lots of ways to be visible, and it's not just posting on Instagram and hoping somebody sees it. It's really getting out there and really, you know, doing it in real life. So that's what we're doing. And it's so much fun.
Love that so much. And I love that you talk about your background in acting, right? And I think most people would link that to like, oh, she's really confident at speaking or being on a stage or, you know, playing a role. But I love how you linked that to the resilience it actually taught you in being in such kind of a cutthroat industry where rejection is very common, where you know, you really do have to just keep getting up and doing it again and applying again and auditioning again. And that is so similar to when you're in business, because you get like 20 ideas and 19 of them probably fail, right? Yeah. And one of them is great. And so there is such a resilience muscle and similarity, I think, in you know, pursuing a career in acting and pursuing a business.
There is. And I think, you know, and motherhood too. I mean, there's so many similarities there too, you know, and you know, as a mom, they're always like, you know, you just get comfortable with something and then it changes, you know? Yes. So like you're just comfortable with, you know, feeding your baby, you know, and getting the baby eating, whether that's a bottle or a nipple or whatever it is. Right. And then all of a sudden you're on solids, and then all of a sudden you're on to walking. And I think, and then as an actor, as you age, the roles you're going to play are going to be different. And all of a sudden then you're competing with younger kids, you know, for similar roles, but you're older, or there's fewer roles, especially for women. There's typically not nearly as many roles for women, especially women once they get into their like 40s and beyond. And so you're having to constantly evolve. And exactly what you said about business too. I'm going through a bit of a brand evolution right now, where I've been doing Renegade long enough to know what's really working, but also like what I have more capacity to like evolve now and what people really need. And like assigning more value to it as well, which is part of the evolution too. Which is, I think, the scary part, like
Yeah.
charging what you need to charge. And it's the same with acting. I still have an agent in Colorado and for commercial work. And sometimes I'll get a ton of commercial, opportunities to submit. And sometimes it's like 1 in 3 months, it's very, feast or famine. But it used to be anything that came to me, I would like absolutely stop time to submit for. And now I look at it and I do the math and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that this is even worth the time to submit, because just to do the tape, it's going to mean an hour or more. And that's an hour away from my business, my family, other things that I value. And so learning to, look at it through a different lens, as opposed to just, I feel validated when I get, somebody wanting to do a consultation with me. Well, but if it's not the right client, then, it
Yeah.
might not be worth the consultation. So yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
lessons I've learned and continue to learn and relearn and unlearn and all the things. So
Oh, totally. I feel like there are always lessons to learn. And it sounds like the evolution of just really wearing the CEO hat, right? Because when you're
mm.
building a business, I think you're wearing every hat a lot of
Oh yeah.
times.
Oh yeah.
And you really are stretched so thin. I mean, as wonderful as it was to step fully into my business and have the flexible schedule and, the autonomy and all the things, I often joke and I'm like, I inherited the world's like worst boss because I put so much pressure on myself when I stepped into that, to like just be on these impossible timelines and these, impossible expectations. And so, I love that that's like something you've noticed too, this sort of evolution and transition into, no, we're going to look at this from like an ROI lens, not
Yeah.
necessarily just like an ego feeding lens or
Yes.
whatever.
Not just
Yeah.
gratification. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so important, and it can be a hard thing to really start to realize and recognize in yourself, and then
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah. And
it
I'm sure the
accordingly.
community helps with that, right? Because there are people in different phases of their business that can recognize that quicker than maybe someone in this phase versus that phase or whatever. So,
Yeah. And that's why being part of a community of other people who understand what you're trying to build. I had somebody once say to me, so I will say this was not like these were not my words. Somebody said this to me. But so often we get excited about something, whether it's, hey, I have a job, but I really don't want this job anymore. I want to try for this other different type of job. So I'm going to leave a job that I've had for a couple of years,
mhm.
or I want to leave my job and start a business, or, I have a business and I want to burn it to the ground and rebuild. And we go to, sometimes it's our partner, sometimes it's our best friend from high school, sometimes it's a parent, and we tell them this. And then they're like, why would you do that? But you've worked so hard to get where you are, but this economy, but this political environment, but all the things. And what we're doing is we're going and we're telling somebody about something that they don't really understand, that they haven't done. They don't understand what it is we're trying to build. And so we then immediately, my kids talk a lot about filling their bucket and then people dumping their bucket. It's like, which is cool. I love, they didn't teach that when I was in school, but all this, social emotional learning. And so immediately you go with this full bucket and then somebody just like dumps it. And so it's important to have, a professional network, a personal network of people who not only support you, but also like really understand like who you are, what you're trying to build, who it's for, so that they can support you in a way that you actually need to be supported, and know when it's okay to ask questions and offer, other pieces of insight. And when it's also just, I just need someone to listen to my excitement right now. And I actually don't want opinions. I just need to be excited. And
Yeah.
we don't find those people though, unless we're really intentional about finding those people and building that community.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talk about this economy of motherhood. Tell
Mhm.
us, what does that mean? How do support systems for moms strengthen it? Just give us a little more context about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just this idea that if we can support other mothers, right? Moms in business, companies run by moms, um, or nonprofits that are supporting working families. That when we can put our dollars there, or it doesn't always mean it has to be a direct dollar to dollar correlation. It could mean boosting visibility around organizations that you like, or hey, I have this friend Marissa, and she's got this amazing podcast, so you should really listen to it, and posting that, in a social post or something like that. But the more that we do that, the more I believe the world benefits. And so there's a lot of conversation right now around who has the wealth, and what are people who have the wealth doing with the wealth. So I think instead of putting all of our energy into fighting only that battle, if we can put energy into diverting dollars, time, and energy into this, into the motherhood economy, then we can all rise and we can all have more money, time, hopefully flexibility, energy to go out and, uh, lead the causes that we want to see change around. I talked at one of my events on Tuesday, and I talked about this idea of martyr math. And
Mm,
that martyr math is often we think about how exhaustion equals worth. And I think as moms, we have been trained that that's what it is. And I am so guilty of that. We are so busy. We are, and I know you talk all about this, time management for moms, right?
yeah.
And we are busy, and we're exhausted. And sometimes a lot of that is just true because there is not a lot of infrastructure necessarily around to support, working parents, working families. I'm a white woman with a lot of privilege, so I want to recognize that as well in this conversation. So oftentimes we are exhausted because there are simply not support systems in place to support us. But I like to say the renegade mother math, when we're talking about from specifically moms who are building businesses, instead of focusing on what's not working and, who's not buying from us and all this stuff, if we can start to focus on like clarity plus authenticity plus visibility plus community, that equals income and impact. And so we have to spend our time, I think, less like trying to fix things and problem solve, and more about how can we put pieces in place that help us get our message out clearly in an authentic way, in ways that feel good to us, to the people who really need to find us, because then they know how they can support us with their time and their money and their energy. So then we can really do the work we want to do.
Okay, I'm really geeking out. I'm a process communicator, so I love a good formula. So can you repeat it again? Repeat it for,
Yeah. I know.
yeah,
And
I
this is
want to
like a
really
lot of this is
ingrain
new,
this in my brain.
totally. And a lot of this is new stuff that I'm like workshopping. I talk a lot too about building the plane in the air. So I use every opportunity that I have, either to speak on a podcast, do my own podcast, or speak live, which is what I really love to do, to like workshop new ideas, which I think is something too that if anyone's listening who's always like, I don't know what to say or how to say it right, to like just say it, because I mean, you might, if you are a verbal processor like I am, you can get a lot of like light bulb moments when you just actually start
Yeah.
talking it out loud. So renegade motherhood math is clarity plus authenticity plus visibility plus community equals income and impact.
Ooh, so good. So good. I love that. You need to like create a piece of artwork with that on it
I know.
for your office. It's so good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And because there are a lot of I also believe, like, going back to this economy of motherhood, like when you put money in the hands of mothers, good things happen. It's like, good things happen. We are much more likely to support nonprofits, with our time, with our money, to be on boards, to run the PTAs, to do all the things, right? But so much of that work is also unpaid labor, and it just adds to the mental load.
Yeah.
So if we can start by thinking about, what are ways that we can get more visible, create more income, and then what can we do with those dollars, right? Because we are more likely to do good things with our money. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and there are a lot of I think the conversation is really starting to shift into this. How can we be more proactive around this and do it in a way that again feels good and feels aligned? So.
So let's talk about specifically the kind of networking that you're doing in Renegade Motherhood, or the type of networking you feel is really like where the value's at for helping these ambitious entrepreneurial moms. Because, we all kind of know about that surface level networking that, we've done at different, I was in corporate for 15 years. Like, it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
It's very surface level, right? You don't necessarily like really get to know someone, have deeper connections. I mean, maybe you do eventually, but typically it's just very kind of like small talkish, right? Type of stuff. It sounds like the networking happening in your groups is quite different. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with just a simple idea of what happens when you get ambitious moms in a room together. Like that's it. That's it. I also really, I have been to a lot of groups where a lot of it seems performative or not really authentic. I am very much unlearning a lot of the, I think, stuff I learned in acting, which was about not being myself and trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be. And so I am almost like I feel like I have authenticity like hangovers after my events because I'm so like me. I put it all out there. I leave it all out there. And I really encourage
I call
other
them
people.
vulnerability hangovers.
Yeah,
I get
vulnerability
it.
hangovers. Yeah, exactly. And I really encourage the people who show up to do the same. And so what makes the events different is a couple things. And I'll admit, when I started, I was sort of doing it the way everyone else is doing it. Everybody got 30 seconds to introduce themselves. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm bored. Like, and a lot of people just don't like that. And I still get nervous.
No more introductions, please.
Yeah. And like, I love to get up and like, and just speak and I have notes, but there's always a little improvisation. But then when it comes to the 30-second intro, it's like this Pavlovian response, and I just start like shaking and I get sweaty, and it's wild. And I have a musical theater degree, and I still got nervous. So I finally got to the point where I was like, I want to do this differently. So sometimes we do more small group breakouts with a lot of prompts. At the one I just had on Tuesday, it was Friendsgiving, and so we did a give and receive exchange where I told people they had to write down one thing they could give, which could be, I can give an introduction to a friend who has a podcast. I can give 15 minutes of my time to do like some focus group conversation with you. I can give an hour of free childcare. So you can, whatever it was, people wrote down all sorts of different things. And then what do I want to receive? And I think that's the hard one. We are very good at giving. We are terrible at receiving and asking for what we need. And so I am always banging that drum of like, ask for what we need, ask for what we need. We don't have to say yes. We are also allowed to have boundaries, but most likely someone here is going to say, oh, I can do that for you,
And
we
it's
don't
no
need
big deal
everybody
for
to
them
say yes.
too. Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's usually no big deal for them either.
Exactly. So, and at first I thought it was going to be something where people would like stick it up on a wall and then you could walk up and you could find one. And then I was like, no, that's too safe. That's still like letting people play small. And so I just said, you have to just get up and go talk to people and say, hey, I'm Jen, and this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I can give. And you just walked around until everybody was taken care of. And there was about 40 people in the room. And one of the members at the end said, she was like, that was like the best Secret Santa exchange. She's like, this was so much fun. So it's just like, and it's one of those things that can be hard to describe unless you're there. But, I do these in Zoom, rooms too. And I've had people say it's just so different. Like because I do a lot of prompts. I do a lot of, I don't, expect people to, it's not necessarily second nature to most people to walk up to a stranger and say, hey, I'm Marisa and I am, I help moms with time management. It's not like a normal thing to do. And so it's giving people, a container to do it bravely and boldly, but with, a bit of a framework too. And so the framework changes, I do like to mix it up and that kind of thing. And so every event's a little bit different, which I think is also just, keeps people coming back because it's not necessarily always the same thing. But it's rooted in, again, just like authenticity. So I say it's a sorry-free zone unless you really like stepped into something you need to apologize for, of course, because sometimes we do need to apologize. But apologizing because you're late or because you have coffee spilled all over you, because you can't remember someone's name, because you're sleep deprived, because you are a mom. Like we spend all this time apologizing for stuff. And so I was like, this is a sorry-free zone. And we're not here to compete with anybody. Like I am very upfront about where I am with my journey. I'm not trying to pretend like I have this 7-figure business because I don't yet, and so really like taking people on the journey of growing this with me, I think is also really powerful, because I think there's a lot of people who have these platforms and influencers out there and they make it look like easy. And it, I think, can be really discouraging if that's where you're spending all your time, is with people who act like they have it all figured out. I'm like, I don't want to have it all figured out. Like that would be boring and stressful at the same time. So just creating spaces where you can come as you are and it's okay. And if that means you're having a rough month and that's where you really need support, then allowing people to really like pour into you. And if you're like, I'm killing it this month and I had my best month ever and I just signed a $20,000, agreement with somebody, like to also be proud and bold of that and not shy away from talking about the money and the impact, because that is also so important. And most of us are not talking about that in the way that we need to either.
Yeah. So good. I love what you're doing, Jen. It sounds awesome. We need a chapter here.
Yes, I need to talk.
All right, Jen. Well, we're going to shift now to our random, personal, fun questions, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is your go-to, like, motivating, get it done song?
That changes so much because I love music. I would say one of like two of the like ones that are always there, Shake It Off by Florence and the Machine, and then Public Service Announcement by Jay-Z.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, love those. Haven't heard them in a while. I'm going to have to pop them on my playlist today.
Yeah.
What about like a guilty pleasure TV show? Do you have one?
I have watched Grey's Anatomy from the very beginning. Pretty much all the Shonda Rhimes shows I have watched loyally. So I would say, yeah, most people are like, you still watch Grey's? And I was like, I still watch Grey's Anatomy. So yes.
That's nothing wrong with that. What if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be? Calories don't count.
Oh my God. Like, this is hard. The first thing that comes to mind is, excuse me, my mom's apple pie. I just love it. And it's such a like investment of her time to make it. So whenever she makes it, I like eat the whole thing. I imagine like anything, I would still get sick of it. It was the only thing, but that's my sentimental favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. It fills a hunger and an emotional void.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Last question. What's something most people may not know about you?
One of the fan favorite stories is my birth was on the evening news. So
what? Okay. Tell us more.
So when I was born, this was not when I gave birth. My dad was a reporter for one of the Cleveland news stations. And it was around the time that fathers were being allowed into the operating room for cesareans. And my mom had a C-section for my brother and I was the second. And so then they didn't really do a lot of like VBACs. So she knew she was having a cesarean. And so they did a whole like week-long series of prepping for this, and my brother, my older brother as a little kid, kind of prepping for it. And I mean, until I went through birth myself, I always thought, oh, it's just this cute story. And then I was in labor for felt like a week, and just, and I was like, if there had been a camera crew in there with me, I would have been like, get this. So my mom always has been a hero. And then after going through that myself, I was like, I don't know how you allowed a camera crew.
Oh my gosh. But
in
you know what? What I take away
renegade
from that story is you were destined to be an actress.
We do talk about that. Born a little
born
spotlight
on camera, baby.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know, yeah. Pretty wild. So yeah,
all right, that's a good one.
Always a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Okay, you win. Fun fact. All right, Jen, tell our listeners where they can find you, connect with you, learn more about Renegade Motherhood, and then we will officially wrap up today's episode.
Absolutely. There's the free way is I have a quiz, and it's the main character code, and it helps you super quick and fun. The outcomes are all famous TV parents. So you will see a Grey's Anatomy as one of the outcome references if that's you. And it helps you figure out your main character energy and how to build a stage, essentially, that represents that. So a visibility plan. And then who are the other supporting cast members that you need to have in your network? Because often I think when we think about networking, we think it has to be all people like us, but we also really need a lot of people who have different strengths and skills and personalities too. So that's the quiz. And then I have a digital community. So if you don't live where there's live stuff happening, I have a digital community that is the Visibility Lab by Renegade Motherhood. And we basically put visibility in action. So we provide the coaching, the business coaching, the community experts that come in and really help you learn how you want to be visible, and then how to really put that into play and play with it too, and just have fun experimenting with it as well. So
awesome. Jen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. So much fun talking to you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you feel empowered, inspired, and ready to take your next step. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another amazing mama, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us show up wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to head over to mamaworkit.com for free resources, coaching support, and new ways to momage your days as a busy mom. Until next time, keep on working it, mama.